Welcome back to the 6th Gear Garage. Today we're replacing the thermostat on my FZJ80, and I have some red coolant as well. I need to remove the cover from the thermostat housing, and it's pretty dirty. The first thing I'd like to do is get some soapy water and spray down the thermostat housing and give it a quick scrub here. That way I'll knock off any loose dirt or grime so it won't fall in when I remove the cover and enter the cooling system. So I have to remove the two 12mm nuts on the top here, and there's also one underneath that's hard to see, but I've got the socket on it. So this lower nut is in a pretty tight spot. I ended up using a short socket, universal joint, and very short extension to reach it. I always tackle the hardest to reach nuts and bolts first, so if there's a tool I need to go buy, I'll have less to put back together before I drive to the store. Once I got it loose enough, I took off the universal and used the normal extension, and now I can just turn it with my fingers. This is actually easier than using the ratchet. And there it is. I was able to loosen the top two nuts with a 12mm box end wrench. Now I'm able to pull this cover off. I just broke the seal. You can hear the coolant leaking out. Yeah, the thermostat was definitely stuck open. I'll get the hose and wash this down. Don't even think about drinking that Kool-Aid. So here's the rubber gasket. It's actually sold separately from the thermostat, and these are both OEM parts. I'll put the part numbers for both of these in the description. Local dealership wanted over $70 for these. I found them on Amazon for a lot less. Now I need to get the old one out. It's usually pretty tight until you break the rubber seal. Looks like I'm gonna need something bigger to knock this loose. Mini pry bar. And yeah, it's a tight fit. But I still think doing it this way is easier than disconnecting the radiator hose from the housing. By the way, I already showed how to replace every coolant hose and line in a previous video. Even the pesky heater hose. I'll link that one in the description. That's something you have to do on these engines. But there's just enough room doing it this way to sneak the thermostat out of here. Do you like puzzles? And there it is. I always like to compare the old and new, just to make sure the OEM parts I bought on Amazon are legit OEM parts. And don't forget to grab the old rubber gasket. I like to get a brass wire brush and clean the recessed area where that rubber gasket sits. Sometimes gunk can build up on that inner edge. And I want to make sure the new gasket has a clean surface to sit on. I'm just running my finger over that inner edge, double checking that the surface is perfectly smooth, and we're good. Time to install the new thermostat and gasket. Pull the cover back with one hand. Not a lot of room in here. Okay, I can wedge the cover over here like this. Now I can barely fit this in between the studs and into the housing. And I want to have that little valve, the jiggle valve, facing up. That helps air out of the system without having to wait for the thermostat to open. Now I can put the cover back into position. I started the 3 nuts by hand. Next, I tightened them to 15 foot-pounds. Now I need to add coolant to replace what I lost. The FZJ80 calls for red coolant. And the radiator is topped off. Reservoir is good. Next, I elevated the front of the vehicle so any air bubbles would rise to the radiator, and let the engine idle until warm so the thermostat would open. There were some air pockets in the system, so I did need to add some more coolant. All done. Thanks for watching.